The American agent has infiltrated the X-Lab facility.
Hey, how are you? Hi, welcome back to the Funker 530 Combat Footage Review Show. I'm Ronnie, I'll be your host. Here we go. Okie dokie. Drop in the chat. Let me know where you guys are. Where the hell you been? We're going to talk about it. Just stand by. Give me a sec. Oh, I'm going to take my hat off. I'm sitting at a table. Where you at? Come on. Pennsylvania, what's up? Tucson, Arizona. Netherlands. Wyoming. I got to turn this up. Gaza. Jeez, Tucson again. Hello. Ohio, behind you. No, you're not. Tennessee, what's up? Massachusetts, how are you? What's going on, guys? Oh, so many. So many people. It's not loud enough. I don't think we've gotten that far into the kill streak opening song in a long time. How is everybody doing? What's going on? I need to enable something really quick here because I'm bad at my job and forgot to do that. I don't even know why it's not showing, actually. Well, we have a sponsor for tonight's stream, but I'll get there. I want to chat with you. It's good to see you. Welcome back to the Combat Footage Review, where we just break down some of the footage that we've seen. It's less of a breakdown and more of a share it with you. Because there's so much of it out there, and it is really all that our team does. We think it's important to host this when we can. That's the important and underlying theme for tonight is when we can. Let's talk about why I was away for, it's literally been 1 month since the last time we did a live show. The last live show was March 5th of this year. And I wasn't really aware of it then, but there were going to be quite a few personal life challenges that were going to jump in the way. And I'm a very transparent person. I've been talking about these over on my other stream, right? The other stream that's really just fire up a game and kick back maybe once or twice a week. But let's chat about that because I think it's important to understand what the schedule for this, moving forward looks like. Where it sits in the priorities of what we do at Funker, what I do at Funker, what the team does at Funker. Well, long story short, I have a family member that was in a pretty debilitating car accident late last year. She was sent home just this past month and is still, generally speaking, immobile, requiring a lot of hands-on help to do basic stuff like groceries, grabbing your mail, normal living at home alone things. Specifically, it's my mom. So between having a new family member here for ourselves, we welcomed a new baby this year, along with my normal 9-to-5 Funker work, launching the podcast. We had to take a hard look at where to dedicate time management and time resources. I had to take a hard look at that. Well, things have been going pretty well. In that aspect, and it looks like we're going to be able to at least bring back 1 day a week for the live show, specifically the Combat Footage Review, but we're still full steam ahead on the podcast. In fact, we have our next guest already scheduled. We didn't really expect to be doing this many of them this quick, largely because we're just kind of trying to walk into it rather than run head first. Yeah, but hey, sometimes you just go for it. So that's where we are now, and that's where I've been for the last month, is doing what everybody should do, put family first. Now that we're in a little bit more of a state where it's manageable, where, I can manage the expectations of what's needed, I think we can bring back once a week. And that's what we're going to be doing now. So from here forward, once a week until I can scale again from there. It'll be Fridays, and it's going to be a long Friday. So we're going to be here probably for about 2 hours tonight. I do need to talk about our sponsor for tonight. For some reason, the picture isn't showing up down here. It should be right there. I'm literally looking at where it's supposed to be. It's Venture Surplus. You guys know Venture Surplus. We've talked about them. They've been a big supporter of the channel, of the live show specifically. And if you guys are looking for anything along the line of military surplus gear, use our code FUNKY10, FUNKY10, because what that's going to get you is 10% off, and we don't make any extra money when you go and do that. That's quite literally at this point for you. So thank you very much to Venture Surplus. Thank you guys for being here. I'm going to continue while we're, watching some of the footage that we have for tonight, trying to get their logo up there on the screen. If I can't do that, there's a pinned comment and a link right at the top of the chat, as well as in the stream description. Go and check that out. Thank you guys very much. Let's get started for tonight, because like I said, there's a lot of footage that I have that I want to get through. We're working through a few technical issues. I had kind of restructured the chair here to handle the podcast. So I had to do some quick changes. I kind of forgot that I made all those. But we're going to be starting with a short section of Israel tonight. Israel, Palestine, Gaza, Syria, Iran, sort of, Lebanon. The Syria, Iran, Lebanon thing kind of all gets mashed into one. But we'll talk about that when we get there. We'll see a little bit from Sudan, I believe. I also have a little bit of footage from Myanmar for us to review tonight. And then we have quite a long section of Ukraine footage to get through. Now, the Ukraine footage is very specifically going to be focused heavily along the Avdiivka axis. Now, I have that broken out really to those smaller villages, Berdichi, and some of the others, where Russia still maintains a pretty heavy offensive right now. They have gained quite a bit of ground since the last time we were here, not unlike they were already doing, but with those same tactics that they were using. Those wave tactics that Wayne talked about on the podcast. But we'll get there when we get there. First and foremost, let's head to, you guessed it, Institute for the Study of War. Coming up, as long as stuff works. Here we go. Oh, nice. Nailed it, guys. Wow. We're in there. So a lot of changes to the map here. I want to see if I can pull up the legend just so you guys can kind of track along with this. Like I mentioned, the Israel section is actually a little bit shorter than it normally is. There was a lot of geolocatable footage here in the north, and I mean a lot of it, of strikes against Lebanese positions. But we're actually going to be talking a little bit more about Damascus tonight. That does have ties to the Lebanese Hezbollah, though. We'll talk about them when we get there. But it also has ties to Iran. And what would, in best definition, be described as an escalation. We'll see a little bit of, close quarters battle type footage that takes place somewhere here in Gaza. And although there was some footage for us to that we could have potentially gone over, some terrorist attacks on buses, specifically there was a airstrike in Jenin. It's kind of, just more of the same footage. It wasn't necessarily anything groundbreaking for us to cover, but I think some of the other stuff that I do have tonight is going to, was a little bit better for us to cover, given how much footage I'm going to be trying to go over tonight. But to start, let's get rolling right out of the gate here. We're going to be talking in Gaza about an Israeli airstrike. And I need to pull up Google Maps for this. So stand by. Let me get that pulled back up. It's good to see you. Do me a favor. Do me a solid. Tap the like button. Thank you so much. So first, we're going to be talking about this area right here in Gaza. Most of you should be aware of this and tracking it, but it's not something that we can't not cover. The very first geolocation we're going to talk about is right here inside of Gaza, as well as right here. Come on. These two locations. This is the first two of three locations where Israelis conducted an airstrike on humanitarian workers from the World Central Kitchen. 7 total were killed. That includes 4 employees of the World Central Kitchen and 3 of their UK security detail. Here is a video that shows these first 2 locations and the first 2 vehicles that were hit by Israelis. Now, it's also pertinent to note that one of those 4 World Central Kitchen employees was a U.S. and Canadian citizen. So that was the first vehicle at the first location. This is the second vehicle. People have noted the precision, quote, precision on this. And I kind of want to talk about that for a second because it draws parallels for me in the brain to a similar, abhorrent strike that took place in Kabul not long after 13 Marines and U.S. service members were killed in a suicide blast. That vehicle, not unlike these, was misidentified, whether you describe that as negligence, fog of war, lack of appropriate intelligence. This was a precision strike. But the Israelis came out with this statement. And we're going to see that last vehicle here in just a second because I think it's just a photo. Here is the statement from the Israelis on that.
Employees of the World Central Kitchen were killed. WCK is an organization whose people work across the globe, including in Israel, to do good in difficult conditions. The IDF works together closely with the World Central Kitchen and greatly appreciates the important work that they do. The IDF completed a preliminary debrief. I want to be very clear. The strike was not carried out with the intention of harming WCK aid workers. It was a mistake that followed a misidentification at night during a war in a very complex conditions. It shouldn't have happened. The initial findings were just presented to me here in the Southern Command. I also visited the new Humanitarian Command Center that we established today to improve the way we coordinate aid distribution in Gaza. We will continue taking immediate actions to ensure that more is done to protect humanitarian aid workers. This incident was a grave mistake. Israel is at a war with Hamas, not with the people of Gaza. We are sorry for the unintentional harm to the members of WCK. We share in the grief of their families as well as the entire World Central Kitchen organization from the bottom of our hearts. An independent body will investigate the incident thoroughly. We will complete it in the next coming days. We will learn from the conclusions and implement them immediately. We will share in full transparency the findings of the investigation with the World Central Kitchen and other international relevant organizations. We see great importance in the continued delivery of humanitarian aid, and we will keep working to facilitate this vital effort.
All right, let's come back up for a second here. And I want to show you the last vehicle. Now, I'll show you the last vehicle after I show you the geolocation for it, which is quite a ways away from the other two. Quite a ways isn't really, in a relative sense, that far, but it still isn't very close. Now, a lot of people looked at this and said something akin to this was deliberate, this was, precision, there's a logo on the vehicle, how could they have missed the logo? Well, the strikes, because it's 3 at this point, that's not one munition. The strikes were conducted at night. that logo under thermal or under some form of, imagery system that allows you to see at night is not going to be apparent. Israel talked about misidentification. Again, there are a lot of parallels that I see with this strike to the strike in Kabul that killed civilians transporting water. While abhorrent, these are the types of things that happen. That's not a justification for it. Accountability is necessary, and to be honest, and in my opinion, the IDF is taking more accountability for this strike than the United States did after the strike that took place in Kabul. There was a lot less of, in my opinion, a public-facing investigation. Granted, that could come entirely from just a lack of information on my part. I don't know what took place behind the scenes. But the accountability that the IDF appears to be taking from this strike feels very much so a bit more than the strike that took place in Kabul. Let's take a look at the last video. This is vehicle number 3 that was hit. Presumably, each one of these vehicles was occupied by, again, a UK security team member. I should have given you a discretion advised. Just reading through the chat here. They're being accountable, so it's okay. It's not okay. Not at all. Let's move, though. Remember way back when I said that wasn't an excuse for it. Understanding that these are the type of things, misidentification, that happen in war is ultimately the purpose of this show. Right? It's not to sugarcoat it. It's to present it to you. We talked ad nauseum about the strike that took place in Kabul when it happened. And again, this just draws so many parallels for me, both humanitarian type missions and organizations, providing aid, running, in one instance, food, and in another instance, water. In a dynamic type environment like that, when Hamas is hiding in and amongst the populace and moving and supporting and working alongside, in some instances, some of these humanitarian organizations and official organizations like the UN, it's going to be difficult to identify appropriate targets, and misidentification is going to happen. Now, accountability after the fact of those is what matters. And whether or not the IDF is held accountable for that strike, I can't be certain. But it's not something that we can't talk about. Speaking of strikes that were kind of unexpected, let's head over to Syria because we're about to start talking about Lebanon. Not sure how that works, but pulling that one up now. We're headed here. That specific building. Now, that building is an Iranian consulate inside of Syria, immediately next to the embassy of Iran, and immediately next to what used to be the Embassy of Canada. The Embassy of Canada shut down quite some time ago. Well, Israel decided to make that building not here anymore. Here is some of that footage coming up for you now. Leap over, I see your comment, and I'll speak to that in a second. I've got another one for you here. This one's coming from our website. Just more aftermath footage of the Iranian consulate. Give you some details here as well. That building's gone. Now, the current international discussion right now is whether or not that building was afforded some of the protections that Government buildings, specifically consulates and embassies, are supposed to be provided in any country. Well, 7 IRGC commanders or senior commanders were killed, specifically one of which was Mohammed Reza Zahedi. He's a commander of the Lebanon Corps of the Quds force. Now, he was originally put into that position by Solemani himself back in 1998. In 2000, he then moved on to other positions, but then in 2008, he was put back into that position. So you can begin to start drawing some correlation to the reasons that the IDF would have taken this strike, because the Lebanese Hezbollah has been targeting Israel regularly from the north. The Quds Force being that organization from Iran that is specifically designated to arm and train proxy forces in the Middle East. That is effectively what has been compared, or I guess comparison is the right word, compared to a hybrid of like JSOC and the CIA for Iran. This is the kind of stuff that Israel is doing inside of Lebanon right now, continuing to conduct airstrikes against Lebanese Hezbollah positions in response to that. But the Lebanese commander of the Quds force was assassinated in that strike. Here's some footage. Coming back up. So there was a comment in the chat that I kind of wanted to speak to. There's information, at least, from both the World Central Kitchen and from the IDF, that the WCK was communicating and coordinating directly with the IDF. While I can't speak to how that information flow went, I can speak to how it goes on our side, right? Because we have had to communicate with humanitarian and partner forces. And I can tell you more often than not that the left hand does not talk to the right hand. The specific brigade that conducted this strike on the World Central Kitchen vehicles was the Nahal Brigade. How exactly information was flowing between them, I can't be certain, right? But it has been acknowledged that it has. Most people are bringing that up in the context that it was a deliberate and intentional strike on humanitarian aid workers. I just disagree with that based on the context of what that coordination normally looks like. I don't want to dive too far down into that because, again, we're really here just to show you the footage, provide the context of the location, maybe what we can from the situation surrounding it, and ultimately, come to your own conclusions on it. But if you were to ask me specifically, it is a tragic loss of life that could have been avoided with better communications channels, of which the IDF has said specifically that they're standing up. More specifically, a humanitarian command center where they're kind of streamlining how they're doing that communication. At some point, there was a breakdown in that communication flow. Exactly how that happened, I can't be certain. But let's move on to some footage inside Gaza. Discretion advised on this. We're going to be seeing some close quarters battle stuff. This is the IDF's 401st Division as they're making their way through a building somewhere in Gaza. I don't know exactly where they're operating in Gaza, but they do end up initiating contact very close with Hamas. Discretion advised, war happens in this. Turning it up for you. All right. Let's come back. I saw a comment. You know, the reason we do this is to communicate with you. I hear all the time, you know, don't feed the trolls. Or this isn't a trolly comment, but that kind of addresses that. But I saw a comment I kind of want to talk about with the discretion advised. The reason I do that is throughout the stream, throughout the night, new people will join. And sometimes there's going to be people that join the stream, the show, whatever you want to call it, that might not be familiar with what we do. So when we come up on a video where, you know, quite clearly somebody is about to be killed, which is, you know, one of the things that happens in war, I will typically provide a discretion advised. Now, you know, again, sometimes I forget to do that, and I apologize way ahead of time for it. Anyway, let's move on, because we're about to watch one more, you know, possible discretion advised here. Depends really on how you look at it. A Hamas fighter was tracked. Put my headphones on backwards. That sounds weird. A Hamas fighter was tracked all the way to his tunnel. As he goes and enters that tunnel, he's probably not leaving it anytime soon. You can actually see the munition if you slow it down a little bit. Perfect. No, that's not going to be good. So we will spin this down to about quarter speed here. It's going to enter from the bottom right, and it is very accurate. All right, let's bring it back up. Now, again, for a lot of this footage, I don't have great geolocations for it, so that video was presumed somewhere inside of Gaza. Exactly where, I can't be certain, and the same thing applies here. You know, once again, we're going to be seeing some very close quarters battle. I wouldn't say that there's any real discretion advised needed for this one. We don't really see anything outside of the exchange of gunfire. The whole point of showing you this is to show the chaos and why sometimes it's better to just drop a JDAM on it. Maybe 40 millimeter through a window or something. Yeah, here you go. Pass, dog.
יש פה כוסות אחי. אז יש פה חתול על הספה, חצי מעולפת. בואו נפתח.
Nope. Let's bring it up. I've got an interesting one from Hamas here. We're actually going to be we're going to see Hamas, and for a split second, we're going to see the only reason I wanted to show this to you, because we have another window rocket drill from Hamas using a tandem warhead RPG, but there is a split frame where things start to get a little bit interesting. We're going to see a Chinese Type 80 machine gun being used. Here's some footage. China. There's that tandem warhead RPG. I'm going to try and pause it. Now, to me, it almost looked like a PK, but, smarter small arms folks than I identified it as a Chinese Type 80. I'm interested to hear what you guys think. Let's see if I can find it again. I thought it looked very much like a PK. Here we are. My first thought was a PK. Yeah. Yep, I will pull this up here. Dorito floating about. PKP. Barrel handle is wrong for what, a PK? Now, note the non-disintegrating belt. I actually just shot a PK like last week. And this does, scream out at me as PK. That being said, I've been told that there are similarities. I don't know the Type 80 very well, but, those that are smarter than I on foreign machine guns suggested that it could very well be a Type 80. All right, let's bring it back up because that's everything that I had for Israel for you tonight. We're going to jump quickly into a Sudan McDonald's. Type 80 is just a Chinese PKM. Oh, well, that makes sense then. How long before people start pulling out the tactical McDonald's shirts? The shirt's kind of drippy. I like it. Boom. It's a machine gun. All right, let's bring it up. We're going to make one pit stop in Myanmar and then another in Pakistan. War everywhere all at once before we get to some of the Ukraine footage that I have. These are government forces, so not the anti-junta, but members of the authoritarian military regime that took power back in 2021 when the girl was doing the TikTok dance and the whole thing was going on right behind her and she didn't even know it. Anyway, some high-angle mortar fire happening here. Here you are. These are government forces engaging anti-junta forces. All right. Let's bring it up. Ronnie, I'd love to see an interview with a GeoOp vet next. Boy, do I have a surprise for you. We actually have the literal Terminator coming on board for the next episode of the podcast, which should be getting recorded not next week, but the week after. Given time management, having to really space those out right now, hoping to make them a little bit more densely packed as time goes along. I'll give you a hot tip. He's got 3 Purple Hearts, a Silver Star, Sergeant Major. Looking forward to having him in here on the podcast. Let's stop in Pakistan to see some Baluchi machine gun stuff versus Pakistan. Fun fact, it's this kind of footage that got us banned in Pakistan. Here you go. Discretion advised. Wow. Let's talk about what you're looking at here. You are seeing through the perspective of Baluchi militants firing on a Pakistani military convoy. Does anybody know what he's saying? I have no idea when this happened, but we just posted it a couple, like a day ago. And I thought it's actually some interesting footage if you look at it from like an enfilade perspective here. There's a machine, we're seeing a machine gun, and, a lot of these guys kind of keep rolling. That was my millennial joke. Anyway, he said, wow. Stop it. Reading through the chat here, and I need to stop to pause and say thank you very much to Steve for the $5. If it's an accident, war is bad. If it's intentional, war is bad. Traveling through a war zone is also bad. Yes. Yeah, all of those things. Correct. And I think that's mostly in the context of the World Central Kitchen strike. It's all bad. Yeah, we should avoid that when at all possible. We're going to be moving into, actually, intermission. Somebody brought up the Texas border. I got an interesting one for you here. Well, I've got a couple back-to-back interesting ones. But first, at the Texas border, we're going to see Border Patrol arresting a Texas National Guardsman who was caught smuggling an illegal across the border. That's weird. Woof. He's going to yank him out. I don't know who this guy is, but I'm surprised he's not carrying a wheel gun. This is like a semi-automatic. Here. Now, just to give you some context, to better understand kind of what led to this situation. Supposedly, CBP had set up some form of an ad hoc traffic control point. Effectively, something that they do pretty regularly to try and catch any illegals that slip through. They noticed this SUV kind of, flipping a B and beelining out of there, and a chase ensued. That's when they eventually caught up to them, and this is what happened afterwards.
22 now. 2036 for now.
You know what? He's probably got a 1911 or something. Like a Kimber, combat custom. It's got night sights on it. In a leather holster.
unidentified 10-4, subject in custody, one driver, no other occupants inside the vehicle. US 90, just west of the force.
Out this way. Come on.
Come here, you.
Turn around. Hand behind your back. Why are you running, dude? I got very, very scared. Oh, what? You don't see fucking red lights?
I know, I'm just very scared.
Driver, nothing? He's a driver. Where? Him.
Where the bodies?
You
jumped them?
Yep.
One Hispanic male just took off south right, called it back, mounted back. Oh man, I'm so stupid.
Yeah, you are fucking stupid, man.
You know how many people you could have fucking killed, man? Jesus Christ.
Now, supposedly, this National Guardsman was taking payment of some kind. I didn't dive too far down into that. I'll give you the link to the article that the team put together over on the website if you'd like to jump in further.
Jesus Christ, man. You don't have anything else on you?
No, sir.
Hey, Troop, you want me to put him in mine?
Yeah, put him in there for now.
One bell?
One bell. That way? That way. You said that way?
You be quiet, Buck.
10 bracket. We got the driver. I got him 95 in my unit.
All right, I'm gonna move on from this one, but that's kind of your intermission of the day. The footage from the border is something that we're trying to cover a little bit more of. So over time you might see us with a little bit more video from down that way. Something to keep in mind is we're still very much resource constrained. We're still just 4 writing team members plus me and plus Funker. I manage other admin tasks. Funker manages the back end of the website, and then you've got the 4 writers. So trying to cover the amount of wars that we have going on right now, along with the crisis on the southern border and a lot of other topics, it's a little bit of a handful at the moment. But you should start to see a little bit more footage on the website and the app. Download the app, ! App in the chat. Here in the near future. Let's move on to some footage from Ukraine. So I've got an interesting one for you guys here. I'm going to go pull it from our Twitter because I didn't put it in the stream description. But I want to give you an update on an individual. This individual specifically, we talked about quite a few weeks back. A U.S. Air Guardsman, is that the Air National Guard, a former U.S. Air National Guards person, I don't know, flying the U.S. flag in Avdiivka on Russia's behalf. I'm going to refresh your memory here and show you that old video that we've already covered.
Plant the U.S. flag as a sign of friendship and support for all the things that people are enduring here. And it's a small token of a small task that we can do to show our support. I mean, we have to end this. I mean, you look around at Avdiivka and you see what's happening.
He's one of the smart ones, Jose? Okay. Interesting. Stand by.
Homes. We need to support Russia. We have to have friendship. We have to make sure that all the goals laid out are fulfilled. And we just have to stop this, and we have to do everything we can to help. And, there's Old Glory, the U.S. flag. And I hope that people back home see it. I hope people understand. And look at independent facts, right? Do your own research, do your own homework. Find out what's really going on here. We have to support these people. We have to help them. We have to stop this. I feel proud. I feel proud to be here. I've met amazing people. I'm standing with amazing people that have done a lot for this and to help people. And that's what it's about. You know, that's why I'm here. That's what I want to do. And these guys that I'm here with, I mean, these guys are incredible people. My hat's off to them. What they do on a daily basis is just unbelievable. It's incredible. And to people back home that are in the military and that have been to war, you know, I'm a veteran from Afghanistan. The people that have been through this, they understand it. And we haven't seen anything like this, even in Afghanistan. This is something, I mean, the entire city is rubble. This is unbelievable. And in Afghanistan, I was in the Air Force for 10 years. In Afghanistan, I've never seen anything like this. This is unbelievable. The work that's being done here, it's just incredible. We have to help these guys.
Okay, let's pause. Let's talk about this guy for a second. So when we first kind of pushed this video out, you know, there were a lot of comments. Oh, he's got a weird accent. This is very much so possibly a Russian who is, you know, trying to drop propaganda. No, this is an actual, you know, U.S. veteran of the Air National Guard. His name, he's been found. His name specifically is Wilmer Puelo Mota. Now, he fled the United States in January of this year. That video was published in late February. Why did he flee the United States? Well, according to Task and Purpose, because he had been investigated for and was about to be tried for illicit photos of a teenager on his phone. Videos surfaced of this dude not too long ago of him enlisting with the Russian military this year. Here is that video.
Deep cuts, it's terrible, it's sad what's happened there. You know, it's a very bad situation, and I'm glad that we can help in the way that we're helping to move forward the goals that have been set forth. So
I'm so glad that they
like in the military,
blurred his face in that first video and then published this and plastered it everywhere. And I mean everywhere. This is all over the place in Russian telegrams of this American that has, you know, seen the light. Here you are.
Military contract here, and they really recommended it to me. They're serving, they're back in Donbass now. So, you know, we wrapped up in Piatnashka. It was a great experience. Now I'm coming here to hopefully meet up with my Serbian friends that are on the phone. Like I said, I mean, the social support has been absolutely fantastic. From the moment I got here, you know, I had a great translator, volunteers. No, seriously, it's important. It's important. You know, when I was in Moscow, you had the same thing. And here, when I got here, the social support has been amazing. People are so supportive. I mean, this is the least that I can do is to give back and help. I mean, everybody's just been so kind, so supportive, and just ready to help me move forward. And I want to help them now continue the mission. So
Now, I want to give a shout out to the Task and Purpose folks for, you know, the article that they did on this. I'm going to give you guys a link to it, but it's right on our Twitter page. It's one of the most recent that we put out there. There's also more information about the story behind these, quote, illicit photos, and the story is so much more wild than I could even describe to you. Something about being held at gunpoint by this teenage girl and then friends robbing him. It's just, I don't want to say it was funny, but it was. It was. Anyway, that is the mysterious man behind the U.S. flag being flown for Russia. Here is the link to the tweet where you can find the Task and Purpose article that talks about his time in the U.S. Air Force, statements from the U.S. Air Force acknowledging that he was, walked out, and ultimately that those illicit photos are what led to him being removed from the Air Force. So, moving on. We're going to be starting in Zaporizhia for our footage from Ukraine. Let's head to Deep State Map. Not Dep State Map, Deep State Map. Except close, make it English. I can barely speak my own language. Buffering. Here we are. We'll be starting in Zaporizhia, where there'll be a little bit of footage, you know, from here. But like I mentioned, we're going to be spending the majority of our time in this concentration here. Now, you'll note another concentration of, Russian combat power near Bakhmut. And then again, up here, we will see assaults from each of these locations. Something important to note, though, is that Russia continues to make gains in those areas, though not without losses. There's a body of evidence that shows that Russia's typical means of taking gains is throwing as much at it as possible until something sticks to the wall. The first video that we're going to watch, and I'm going to pull up Google Earth, many different maps, because I keep closing Google Earth for some reason, like an idiot. We're going here. It's going to be pretty far away from the embassy that we were just at. Well, technically, it'll be from like way up here, because we're going to watch Russian Su-34s conducting airstrikes, or I should say dropping glide bombs, specifically Fab 500s with the UMPK glide kits on them. Here you are. I'm going to turn the music off there. This is the section of the stream where I typically have to keep the sound off because of all the copyright music on it. So we see them drop 4 of these Fab 500s, but we don't have any footage of the impacts. You can see this is supposed to be footage of the impacts, but it just looks like smoke plumes to me. You can see the UMPK kit deploy, which is, kind of like the JDAM kit for us. Adds a little bit of smart capability to otherwise dumb bombs. Okay, coming back up. Although I don't have any footage of that strike specifically, we can head to Malinovka. I think I pronounced that correctly. Hello? Hold on. Copy pasta errors. More specifically here. That building, which gets hit by a Russian airstrike. We'll see quite a few Russian airstrikes to start the show tonight. Well, to start the Ukraine section. All right, let's come back up. And we'll see another series of Russian strikes, this time in Urozhain. That's going to take place here. Specifically there. That footage is coming up for you guys now. Very few technical issues tonight for a whole month. Not working through this stuff. Here you go. You just jinxed it. Yeah, something's going to break. Yeah, that's just the way it works. I need to check in on the support. And I'll do that right after this video. All right, let's bring it up. And thank you very much to Jose for becoming a member. Welcome to the Funkers. Needlehead, thank you for the $2.99. Can we please get a haircut reveal? I just got my haircut yesterday. They just kept it longer than I expected them to. Yeah, I got it cut yesterday. Anyway, there you are. 3%, thank you for the $1.99. He's screaming Trump 2024. Maybe. I don't know. Let's move on. next video that I have is another Russian airstrike. This time it's going to be on a bridge. Very accurate strike, though. That bridge is here, near Kurakova. Just for a little bit of a macro view of where that takes place. And that footage is, stop it. That footage is coming up for you now. Here you are. Keeping the sound off, though. It's a rail bridge. All right, let's bring it up. Do Russian guide bombs have guidance capability? To a certain extent. That's what the UMPK kit is quite literally for, is to provide some level of guidance and glide capability for, otherwise just drop bombs, right? So dumb bombs that would typically just be dropped straight down, sort of, it is forward. But you add the UMPK to it, which is, again, I wouldn't say equivalent, but very similar to, the JDAM ER kits. Right, when you hear JDAM, that's actually a kit, right? So it's a very similar capability and system and provides some level of guidance to it. I think we've covered that in a little bit more detail before. Let's talk about Pervomaisk. Now, we've actually very recently talked about Pervomaisk. The context that we talked about it was Mr. Wayne Hallat and Chosen Company. This is their stomping grounds. Wayne talked about the fight for Pervo the first time, the second time, and for those that haven't had a chance to watch that podcast episode, I'd strongly recommend it. It's very insightful. It provides a whole lot of context to the fight that has been ongoing in Donetsk for Pervo. But what I'm gonna show you here is really just one of the few videos that's coming out of there. In this location, Russians appear to have taken at least this northern section of the village, of the city, of the town. Because they're flying a flag there. The footage is coming up for you here. Hey, Khan, I see you, buddy. All right, let's bring it up. That's the only video that I had from Pervo. We're going to be getting into the Avdiivka axis next. Now, this is going to be a compilation of footage from, forgive the pronunciation, Tonenki, Orlivka, and Berdichi. All three areas, kind of sub-axes of the overarching offensive that's been taking place in and around Avdiivka over the last, few months. I'm going to bring Deep State back up for you. And we're gonna pull that up, and we're gonna specifically zoom in on the Avdiivka area. I'll set this to basically allow us to go back in time a little bit to maybe the last time we were here. Where am I at right now? Too far. Here we are, right here. So note, we were last here about a month ago, right? So let's go back to March 5th. Not a whole lot of ground since March 5th, but ground taken nonetheless. Move forward in time. Since the last time we were here, Tonenki was taken. We'll see some footage of that. Come on. This is just running real super slow. Just do this. You see Pervomaisk on the southern axis of that Avdiivka front. Noting back to the podcast with Wayne, they talked about being retasked off of the defense of Pervo, or the offensive of Pervomaisk, to defensives supporting, the Avdiivka front. Our first video that we have is going to take place just outside of Tonenka. I'm just going to say Tonenka. That sounds close. It's going to be some pretty high definition footage of the destruction of a tank, specifically a Russian tank, here. Macro view once again. And then I'll show you some even more footage that this tank was likely a part of. Here you are. I don't know if, T-Series tanks are just, keeping barrels of gasoline inside of them, but they seem to be very flammable inside. You see the blowout panels working very well there, and specifically on T-Series tanks, the blowout panel being the entire turret itself. We'll see another example of this here in a little bit. And it's gone. Now, this tank might have actually been a part of this next video that I'm going to show you. This next video takes place here and was a large, very large assault from Russia. This is just one of the areas in that video. So we're not far from where we just were. We really just shifted over one farm field here. But it takes place across a large swath here of land between Tonenka and Umansky. I feel like I'm getting closer with those. A very large assault, mechanized assault, including tanks and armored fighting vehicles, that was halted by Ukraine. Accurate artillery, mines, FPV drones, etc. Here is the footage of that assault. These are Russian vehicles assaulting from Tonenka to Umansky. Tonenki. Umansky. We're going to see another example of this from a bit further north in Luhansk. Now, there were all sorts of aftermath photos and images, but that is the bulk of the footage of that assault. I have a non-geolocatable here that was just described as being in the general area of Avdiivka. And to be honest with you, I haven't seen a whole lot of Javelin footage for a little while. So I wanted to show you guys this one. Side of the Javelin, maybe. I don't know exactly where that took place. But the Ukrainian assault, again, quote unquote, takes place here. You'll see Ukrainian vehicles, 3 of which moving down and towards this direction, and then they kind of just turn around and go back. Now, whether that's some form of a tactical feint, that is something that you would regularly theoretically do, I'm not certain. But what ends up happening is along that withdrawal, after they turn around and unass that area, the last vehicle hits a mine or gets hit by artillery, one of the two, and appears to get left behind. And then one of the first 2 vehicles hits a mine or gets hit by artillery. But they are conducting this under artillery fires as it is. Here is the footage of the Ukrainian vehicles moving from Umanska towards the other town. It's back. Welcome back. What happened? I don't have any dropped frames or anything on my side, guys. That had to be on YouTube's side. A lot of spacing between these 3 vehicles. That is artillery that's falling. Stream went down for a good 30 seconds. Goodness. So again, this first vehicle is going to, probably be damaged in some way by Russian artillery or a mine up here. But what I found interesting about this, and the reason that, I have quotes around the assault, is prior to anything negative happening, prior to a vehicle being mission killed, they're already turning around. So that screams to me as some form of a tactical feint, a la push up, initiate contact, pull back, do that continuously until eventually what you do is you end up setting conditions that it's just going to be another feint, and then you take a position. Something pretty regular, something that would be theoretically pretty regular that you do. Anyway, you can already see that first vehicle turning before it is damaged in any way. Here. Now, I believe this vehicle here is what's going to have a close impact. And it appears to go down. And if you look very carefully, you can almost see a dismount jump out. Now, these 2 vehicles are going to kind of continue to unass the area. But again, to me, this looks like they were already turning back around in RTB. So they continue to move. That previous vehicle is still back here. Indirect still landing around. And one of these 2 vehicles on its way out is going to hit a mine. Hey, Brandon, I see you. There it is there. At least what was reported as a mine. I have no idea what's going on here, Con. Yeah, me neither. These are reported to be Ukrainian vehicles. And again, just to kind of summarize, what they do is they're pushing forward under artillery, indirect, to me what looks like a feint because they begin turning around here right there. One of the vehicles on that turnaround kind of actually zigs when everybody else zagged. You see that there? So these two zigged. This vehicle zagged. And gets hit close, gets stuck behind, and then rotates back out. Now, when you watch it quickly, it looks like, oh, they started taking indirect, so they just decided to stop that assault. But that, U-turn happened before, really any of the vehicles were hit. So that tells me that, at least from a theoretical perspective, that it was a planned turnaround. Where is this? Here. Just south of Umensky, which would be north of Pervo, west of Avdiivka. All right. Wrong button. But hey, there's the guest spot. Cool. All right. We're headed to Orlivka next. Specifically here. We will see Ukrainian drone-corrected artillery impacting at and near Russian positions. Video is coming up for you now. That would be DPICM or a cluster, dual purpose improved conventional munition. That's not. I've got a video coming up here in just a little bit that'll show you some on-ground perspective of what DPICM looks like when it lands close. That'll be an interesting one to look at. This munition specifically. All right, let's come back up. Now we're going to be headed to Berdichi. Wrong tab. We're headed here. This exact location where a Russian BMP-3 was hit by what was reported as an FPV drone. And it's gone. And makes a very big boom. Here you are. Can we please see the new haircut, sir? I took my hat off and everything. We've actually seen this location before. Well, close to this location before. And we'll head back to the map and talk about that. That is a big boom. So, the last time we looked at this location, we saw a Bradley that had moved up along this road here and was firing within, 25 meters at Russian infantry close. And I want to say that was about right here. The indicator is this patch of trees here. Just for those that recall that footage. All right. We're going to move now to Russian artillery. So this is an interesting one. This was misidentified by the original source. I'm not sure how exactly this happened. But given where it took place and the date-time group that it happened, Ukrainians claimed this as Ukrainian artillery hitting Russian positions. It's not. So these strikes take place here. based on the date, which would have been on or around 1 April. You know, again, we haven't been here in about a month, so I'm including stuff from quite a few days ago. But based on the date that these strikes took place, Russians weren't in this position. This is Russian artillery that was misidentified as Ukrainian artillery. Video's coming up for you guys here in just a second. Artillery of some kind, could be MLRS, not entirely certain. You tell me. Here you are. Thank you, East Coast. I do my best to. If I have something wrong, I'm happy to be corrected. All right, let's move on to our next one here that we have. The next video is Russians attempting to assault Berdichi. This Spicy Wally. Yeah, okay. All right, I'll give you the geo. Let's see. Let me show you where this took place. So words matter in the title. Spicy Wally. We're going to see two versions of Spicy Wally. One, first here from Russians that have equipped unmanned ground vehicles with what looks like machine guns and other munitions. They tried to use those to assault Berdichi. Well, what's really interesting is the machines end up fighting the machines here because the ground vehicles then get attacked by FPV drones. Welcome to modern warfare. There's a reason I wore this shirt. Yeah. Here is the footage of that. And then we'll see another Spicy Wally from the Ukrainian side. Wild stuff. Note, that actually looks like a AGS. You guys remember the show Battle Bots? All right, let's come back up. Now, north of Berdichi, another Russian assault took place. Once again, kind of a large formation assault. Not quite as large as the last one, but up here. That also was halted by, I believe this area is now taken by Russia. No, well, not all of it. Here, I'll show you Deep State. So we were just about here. So where we're about to watch the assault is now, according to Deep State, under Russian control. So just to be fully transparent on the footage. But another assault with a few vehicles. I wouldn't say it's nearly as large as the last. That got halted. Again, at some point, one of these assaults was successful, and the ground is now claimed to be controlled by Russia, by Deep State. Here you are. I should have given you a discretion advised for this one, and I did not. I had it in my notes. Apologies for that. All right. We're going to be shifting on the map next. We're going to head up to Chasiv Yar, where, I don't know, we're going to watch the worst bit of combat footage I've ever seen. Not even worse like it's nasty to watch. It's just not good. Not a good video. It's really difficult to watch. I'm going to explain some things here in this, but it shows a very large formation Russian assault. And it was published by Russia. Anyway, so this is generally speaking where this takes place. So along with the Avdiivka front, there are also large offensive operations taking place in and around Bakhmut. This video that we're about to watch encompasses this whole area here. It might make you motion sick, but because it's being shared so heavily by pro-Russian accounts, it's these are the kinds of videos that we want to cover. Again, we cover as much context as possible from as many perspectives as possible. Anyway, I've given you the disclaimer for it. Here's the footage. Extremely difficult to follow, but I showed it to you. I don't even know what's happening right now. Supposedly there's a Su-25 strike somewhere included in here. There's stuff on fire. There's an explosion there. Just cars driving. I don't know. I'm not sure. Still cheering for Ukrainian. We're watching Russian footage right now. Why don't you sit down? Can you show the video half speed? Maybe. But then it would take forever. Yeah, I guess that would have been better. No, this is worse. I wonder what the beginning kind of looks like. It's not that much better. A quarter speed, is that any better? So this is probably real time. Who's shooting who here? So again, just to kind of rehash what we're watching here, this has been shared pretty widely on Russian accounts and pro-Russian accounts as an assault on Chasiv Yar and Ivanivsky. Forgive the pronunciation, butchering there. I'm doing my best. And I wanted to show it because what we can derive from it is, again, large formation mechanized assaults in the area. Outside of that, taking anything out of this footage is next to impossible unless we were to sit here on 0.25 speed for the next 7.5 minutes. The link is in the description if you'd like to go and watch the rest of it. Let's move on to the next spicy wally. This one specifically is, so the last one we saw was a Russian spicy wally. This one is a Ukrainian spicy wally, and it takes place here. This, small little drone that could is going to work his mischievous way up to this bridge and then blow up. Here you go. I like him. He's like perfectly sized to fall right down into there too. There's like this little small hole here. Just kind of squeezes right in. All right. Coming up. I've got some more Depicum fires here, cluster munitions that take place here, still in that Avdiivka axis, along that Avdiivka front. A little bit to the north this time, though, I think, if I got that figured out right. Oh, no, we're all the way up by Bakhmut now. But this video takes place here. And not this video, but the one after, which I'm really only, it's a little bit older footage, but I wanted to provide some contextual footage of what it looks like on the ground when steel rain, the nickname that it was given, is impacting all around you. Here is that footage of Depicum hitting near and directly on top of Russian infantry. Eva. Note the vehicles down here as well. One of those vehicles takes kind of a direct hit. It's interesting that you can actually see, in the thermal footage, the heat pattern. Something got hit there of the Depicum in that kind of signature circular impact area. All right. Coming up. Now, here is what that looks like down on the ground. I don't know where this takes place, but I did want to share this. I shared it to our Twitter a couple weeks ago. And I think it just provides a little bit of context.
Пизду, блядь! Говори.
So imagine being under that over there. He's probably, I don't know what, 50 meters from that. All right, coming up. I have a few non-geolocatable videos here that I just found to be interesting. The first one I want to say is it is more Russian air, somewhere along the Avdiivka axis. You see 4 total jets here. Just kind of sending rockets in a general direction. All right. And then I've got another one here with a big boom somewhere along Avdiivka. I'm not sure why these ended up on the Bakhmut area of the show stream. I'm not certain. But these are both reported to have taken place somewhere near Avdiivka. Here you go. Russian tanker watching his tank explode. That's a tank.
Еб...
And it's gone.
Был танк и нет танка. Вот эта тварь маленькая, вот что творит. Моти летят до сих пор. От него вообще...
One more time. Now, I would assume, you know, we posted this one on Funker on the website. We assume that this is like the tank crew that's watching this happen, so I don't think there's anybody inside of it, but it was an interesting magic trick. Now let's move to Soledar, where we will watch a Russian assault on a Ukrainian trench line. It's going to take place here. Video's coming up for you now. Sorry. Here you are. So these are Ukrainian troops moving. The original report said withdrawing to these defensive positions. Got some flags in here to help, you know, with ID. So this fight that's happening right here is very close. Russians are going to, if I recall this footage correctly, continue moving down this trench line where there are Ukrainians holding a defensive position here. Frag just got thrown. Haven't gotten there yet, Freddie. Haven't gotten there. It'll be coming up actually in about 3 or 4 videos. So again, these troops that you're seeing firing right now, these are Russians. Not sure whose fires those were. The indirect that's landing all around that area. But let's bring it up. We're headed to Luhansk, where another large formation Russian assault took place. Happened here. Let's pull out. And the video is coming up for you now. Here you are. These vehicles on the move are Russian vehicles under Ukrainian artillery. Very accurate artillery, I should say. Now we're going to move into a section of the footage that I have coming out of Russia proper. First, Morozovsk, an airbase inside of Russia, was targeted by Ukrainians. Headed all the way out into Rostov. That might be... Yeah, I think I have the geo for that wrong. It's this airbase that was targeted. Just got a digit wrong there. Here is some of the footage of that. Coming up now. Now, what you may have been seeing there is the perspective of the camera. So sometimes the geolocations that I find for these are, based on the impacts themselves or the perspective of the camera. You can see a tracer fire there. Not sure why I don't have... Oh, here you go. Let's roll the audio, Ron. All right, I've got more footage of that. Quite a bit more, actually. And then I've got a little bit of context to add to this, too, i.e., target value, if you will. Boom. And then a little bit more from that same thread that is linked in the stream description. No sound to this one, though. Now, at that location was the home of quite a few Su-34s. As of 14 March, this is what that airfield looked like. This is provided courtesy MT_Anderson on Twitter. Just want to shout them out for it. Lots and lots of aircraft as of 14 March. The strikes themselves took place over the last 48 hours or so. So on or around the 4th or 5th of April. Great little legend here. 36 Su-34s, 4 Su-24s here. They look beautiful. I'd be interested to see what they look like now after all of those strikes. Now, again, deep in Russia, kind of an interesting strike took place from Ukraine on a Shahed drone facility, more specifically, the dormitory of a Shahed facility. Now, here is that footage. Got a little bit of detail for you on this one. Because it was a whole ass plane. Yeah, specifically an A-22 that had been converted to be a drone. Now, the impact there is, again, on what was described as the dormitory for the Shahed facility. Shahed being the, Iranian drones that have been, I shouldn't say reverse engineered, but copied by Russia and are now being produced in Russia. Now, the A-22 is, even the U.S. has converted a Cessna before into a drone. Right. There was an image that I actually tried to find before the show tonight to show you some examples of what these look like up close. But, you could go and do a little bit of research on your own and just search A-22 drone, A-22 drone, and I'm sure you'll be able to find, plenty of additional. I want to show you some of the aftermath of that strike, though. Here is the wreckage of that drone being loaded into a dump truck. Quite a bit of it left. Looks like the payload may have been in the back in some way, which would make sense. A lot of this is going to be engine compartment. DK, thank you for the 2. Amazon Prime delivery is getting out of hand. Here's your stuff. Anyway. And then a little bit of aftermath of what the dormitory facility looks like now. That is the wrong link for that. Well, we'll have to skip that. The aftermath. No, I think we can find it. Stand by. Talk amongst yourselves. Found it. Found some different perspectives on the strike as well. Here's the first. Boom. And then another here. We already saw that view. But here is what the, quote, again, dormitory looked like after the strike. All right, let's bring it back up. I had copied down a geolocation for that strike, but for some reason, when I tried to pull up the geolocation, it sent me somewhere really weird. Let's try it one more time. Actually, yeah, I think that is the right location, I believe. Here you are. So, you saw all of those, civilians, whomever they were, kind of located about here, screaming. But this was the impact location of that. All right, coming up. I have just a generally interesting video I wanted to show you. This has been talked about a few times. Wayne and I actually discussed a little bit of this, a little bit of some of the new munitions that are being used with drones, everything from kind of shape charges, if you will, to thermobarics, right? Thermobaric being a special fuel mixture that highly explosive, creates a big explosive blast, isn't necessarily, designed for a whole lot of primary fragmentation. The primary fragmentation being something that you'd get from like a frag grenade, metal shards. Claymore has a lot of ball bearings inside of it that are considered primary fragmentation, but it creates a very large explosive blast with a lot of heat. Well, this is reportedly an FPV drone that is loaded with a thermobaric munition on it that just obliterates a house. Here you are. That's an FPV drone that did that. This one specifically is being operated by Ukrainians. It's actually got quite a bit of a large kind of payload there. You can see it. through the window. What's so fascinating to me is from, from a mission command perspective, this is talked about by literally everybody, so I'm not going to be dropping any, huge knowledge bombs on you here. But I continue to just be amazed with how many functions and jobs, MOSs for the Army folks out there are being replaced by FPV drones. Think about, long-range surveillance. Think about, precision artillery fires for very cost-effective replacements of that. You've got $2,000 drones that can go 2, 3, 4 kilometers in some instance. Now, it's not going to replace, some of the most advanced munitions that we have. And some of these drones some of these things can go a really long way. And the economy of scale that comes along with that. We're literally seeing the intersection of trench warfare and yesterday's wars with tomorrow's war. And I think it's one of the reasons that we continue to want to cover as much as possible from Ukraine, not least the geopolitical impacts of the outcome of the war in Ukraine, but because the context and understanding that we're getting of what modern war looks like, that, to be honest with you, the U.S. isn't fighting and hasn't fought. It just fascinates me. That's why I'm really excited to have our next podcast guest that's going to come on, because hopefully we'll be able to derive some insights on maybe how the U.S. is training for some of that stuff. We'll also hear a little bit on the operations that he was a part of in the global war on terror. Hear some stories about cancel culture in military veteran space. But I'm really excited to have our next guest, and I don't want to give it away because I already gave away too much, and one of you has already guessed it. But we do have a date for him. That's going to be it for tonight's show. That's everything I had, except for one more video that I always have for you. Welcome back to the Combat Footage Reviews. We'll be weekly here, and I will scale from there where time is available. If you want to better understand what I mean by that, and you were looking forward to a show that would have otherwise happened on Tuesday, head back to the beginning of the stream, because I provide a little bit of transparency as to what's going on personally. That's really just keeps me away from being able to prepare the show all day long. I appreciate you very much. Thank you very much to our sponsor for tonight, Venture Surplus. Please use the code. We don't make any money when you use the code. It's literally just money off for you. So if you're looking for military surplus gear, whether that be IFACs, right? They have North American Rescue, IFACs. If you're looking for a rucksack, because you're lazy and haven't gotten off the couch and you want to start rucking, which I strongly recommend that you go outside and touch grass, use Funky 10. Get yourself 10% off over there and go outside. All right. Anyway, thank you very much to Venture Surplus. One more video. I don't recommend you guys do this at home. It's not that big of a deal. We'll talk about it for a second here. But everybody's going to pucker. If you're following us on Twitter, you'll know exactly what video I'm bringing up. We'll just chat for a second about what's happening. Soviet mortars are 82 millimeter. Well, specific to the 82 millimeter mortars. U.S. mortars are 81 millimeter. This is supposedly a video of Ukrainians turning, using a lathe, an 82 millimeter mortar to fit in an 81 millimeter mortar tube. Now, on a first glance, people are going to wonder why it's not exploding. Well, they've taken the fuse out and presumably, anything that could initiate it. Where the challenge actually exists with this is the integrity of that when you go to drop it, when you go to hang it. Will, our resident mortarman, talked a lot about, the firing tables and having good data on, where these should theoretically impact at different elevations. Mortarman shit. I do recommend going to check that out. I'll give you guys a link to the tweet where you can go and check that out. But that's wild shit right there. Anyway, I'm out of here. Good night. I appreciate you very much. And we will see you next week on Friday for more combat footage. And if you want to swing by, we'll be playing a few games tonight. Maybe kicking back, having a beer or a bourbon. I think I got a little bit of bourbon left. Good night. We'll see you next time, and stay informed. Button.